all head to Pocono for what is expected to be a great racing action. We get you ready from a betting perspective next on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series from a betting perspective. Get you ready next. What is up, everybody? How we doing? Mark, my man, good to see you. Awesome. Got so many in the house tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Can't wait to get started here. We got a jam-packed show. Rory, let me get you up here to speak, and Phil as well. Mitch, what's going on? Jessup, how are you? Jacob, man, so many. Skip, what's up, guys? Brian, Kyle, and we got the whole group here tonight. This is awesome. We are going to have, what up, Bachman? Good to see you. Rowdy. So we got a lot of people tuning in tonight. I'm so excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. So a lot to cover here tonight with the NASCAR Betting Preview Show and Pocono in particular. Welcome, first and foremost, to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. I'm your host, Derek Yoder, and with New Hampshire now in the rear view, Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series all head to Pocono this weekend. The NASCAR Betting Preview Show is presented by Atlas Hair. Atlas is an elite line of hair styling products with cologne fragrances. So get started today at atlashair.com and use the promo code NASCAR for 20% off your entire order. That's atlashair.com, ATLASHAIR.com. In addition, through a partnership with In Between Media, we are now live officially on YouTube, IBT_media on YouTube. Go check it out if you want to see our pretty faces here tonight. Like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Everything that they got going over there on the IBT side. We are going to be making some major impacts this year, the remaining year, I should say, in the NASCAR season. So make sure, because this is only just the beginning. So with a lot now, New Hampshire that is in the rear view, I want to welcome on the panel. So again, if you're new here, we're going to introduce everybody, kind of go over a few things. So Phil with the Full Tank with Phil podcast, Mark, a.k.a. SKYBOX NASCAR, host of the Laying Coin Pod and Through the Gears, Rorypicks, co-host of the Laying Coin Pod. And Phil, I want to start with you. Obviously, your betting podcast dropped today. I haven't finished listening to it yet, but you crushed it last week in New Hampshire. So how are you feeling going into Pocono?
Derek, I'm feeling really good. I mean, we did have a good week. Had a good week on the show, the picks we talked about here last week, so I'm flying high there. And really good podcast card that we gave out. I had Chris from the Flag Hunting Pod on with me last night. We worked together and put out some winners, man. So we built up quite a bit of a nest egg so far this season. And, Pocono's my home track, so I'm pretty excited to talk about it here tonight.
Well, I'm excied to hear what you have to say. Like you said, I mean, home track for you and I, and can't wait to see we got all three series in action this weekend, and you and I both love talking trucks. We'll be talking about it on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast later tonight. Mark, I want to kick it over to you next. How you doing going into Pocono week? Now, whenever you're ready, Mark, just unmute your mic when you got a second. I know how it is. Right?
Here we fucking go. Show. No, you know what? I try to put headphones in, and it doesn't work. So we're done with the headphones. All right, I ripped them out. Now we're back to the phone. We're going old school style. We got the video this week. Shout out Seth, IBT Media. If there's double audio, sorry about it. Can't help it. No, dude, I'm fired up for Pocono. Okay, I wasn't as fired up about New Hampshire last week. I just didn't have the confidence, right? I didn't feel like I had it. This week, going into practice and qualifying, I am feeling confident. I'm ready to go. We got Kyle Busch in the trucks. Gonna be interesting. We got Chase Elliott and Xfinity, going to be interesting. And I think we got some really good comp numbers to look at with Cup. And I'm fired up. And I'm going to be talking about one team tonight, and one team only, one manufacturer. And if you don't want to listen to me here talk about this particular team and this particular manufacturer, sorry about it. You're going to have to listen to it. But they're going to win. So that's where we're at.
I like it. A good tease in the industry you just put out there. Rorypicks, I'm going to go to you next, my man. You have been a day one supporter of this show. How are you doing, and how you feeling about going into Pocono this week?
Oh, man, I'm feeling good now. We finally get to see some racetracks again. And, I mean, Pocono was pretty damn exciting last year. So I didn't get to see it because I was actually at an Orioles game, took the kids there.
Okay. But
we did cash Suarez top 5, and I forgot what else. We had a really good weekend. That was the Barry over Custer weekend. That was awesome.
Gotcha.
So in Xfinity. Yep. So, you know, I'm just glad. This is kind of a good stretch because you're probably going to see a winner or two during the stretch, I believe, that you're not going to believe that won, or somebody that hasn't won a race yet. I just think these can turn into like strategy type races sometimes where fuel mileage and different things come into play. So, you know, I think that's what makes these good racetracks, is if strategy calls come into play sometimes, because it's usually one guy that shows up and just kicks everybody's ass here normally.
It's true.
So
it's true.
I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to go with the guys that are good here. I'm excited. I'm glad to be round track racing, not at other places that I'm really not interested in. And this is one.
Yeah. It's a triangle, Rory.
It's a triangle. Yeah. Why not? It's tricky.
True.
It's a tricky triangle.
It is a tricky triangle. There it is. Under 7.5 minutes, somebody said tricky triangle already. So, yeah. So, Rory, it sounds like you got maybe a fire alarm going off in the back. But I'm looking forward to chatting with you tonight, Rory, especially as we get ready to go to Pocono. I think it's going to be a great race all weekend long. And like you said, we got a lot of different series. I'm curious because there's so many people right now filling in. We see them on the YouTube side, obviously see them in Twitter Spaces. Curious where you're listening from. You listening to us, watching us on the big screen TV? Heard a couple of people might be doing that tonight. If so, take a quick picture. Let's see where you're watching or listening from. Get interactive on the bottom right. If you're listening to Twitter Spaces, bottom right-hand portion, messaging tab. We'll interact with you throughout the show. And if you're listening or watching live on YouTube, hello, welcome, and make sure you tell us where you're watching from as well. So now I want to welcome on a very special guest to the program here tonight, and it is Austin. Austin is the owner of the NASCARmoney.com brand new site to the betting community. And Austin, I'm so excited to chat with you because now it gives an opportunity for the betting public to kind of get to know a little bit of the guy behind the curtain of what you've been able to work on. The site looks awesome. I hope everything's going well on your end. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Derek. First time caller, long time listener, big fan of the show.
That is.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend a good week for NASCAR Money. Found out Kenny Wallace is a big fan, and we finally got NASCARmoney.com out to the public. It's been a project I've been working on for a few months now. I just wanted to make a site that has everything that I normally go to whenever I'm making my picks. There's a lot of really cool tools on there. Yeah, excited to talk Pocono, and yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm very excited to chat with you a little bit more. And again, get the listening audience. I see so many people filing in. Colin, what's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Worm, how we doing? Coop, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Matt Jones, see so many. Chris Perry, how are you guys doing? So a lot of really good people within the industry. So thank you very much. And then if we look from the YouTube side, Robert Riggs says he's listening and watching from the Gulf of Mexico. So hopefully it's good weather down there. And Kyle Roberts says, let's go, boys. Stepping up the game here tonight. What up, Rye? Good to see you as well, man. So thank you so much for tuning in. So here's how the show is going to work. Going to give a quick show outline, and then we're going to dive into what these guys are on from a betting perspective. So first we're going to go over, some of the trends and track, history kind of coming up for this weekend, get you dialed in to what you can expect throughout the week. So Pocono, obviously, like we talked about already, is going to be stage 1 will be 30 laps on Sunday. Stage 2 and 3 will both be 65 laps. So it's going to be, a long race, if you will. There's going to be a lot of strategy in play. Saturday, 2:35 Eastern. We're going to see practice with the Cup Series, and then qualifying will be at 3:20 on Saturday. Then the Cup race will be 2:30 Eastern on a Sunday there for the Cup Series. So there's a lot to cover here. When we're talking about track trends and kind of looking at some different elements, there's some people saying maybe Fontana. Austin, I'm curious here in a little bit to hear what you're maybe looking at from a comp standpoint. Obviously, we can look back at last year with Pocono and kind of pull some of those metrics as well. But let's dive right into the betting conversations. It's why you're here. It's why we are here as well. So, Phil, I'm actually going to open it up to you, let you kick off the conversation tonight. When we look at the head-to-head market, which play right now on the board caught your eye, and why should the betting public go and bet this number?
Yeah, I definitely have one that I saw and really liked. And I'll just kind of piggyback off what you were saying. I mean, I'll lay out kind of what I've been going off of, and, anxious to hear what others are doing the same. And if I'm doing the right thing, wrong thing, etc. But I'm looking at the last 9 at Pocono, because I think this is such a unique track with everything that it brings to the table. Really, that's what I think matters most. So then I'm kind of zooming in maybe like the last 3 just to get a sense of like who's been hot lately. But because of iFantasy Race, threw a couple secondary tracks out there because of the high horsepower. Auto Club mentioned, and also Michigan. So since the next gen car dropped, there's 4 races with those 3 tracks included. So I'm looking at those things. So you hear me mention them. I saw a head-to-head matchup that came out. It's on Caesars. This is Alex Bowman minus 135 over Chris Buescher. All right. And yeah, minus 135. I know a lot of us in this community kind of cringe at, high lines like that in head-to-head matchups. But this one really caught my attention because nothing seems to make sense here. We're looking at Bowman. Last 9 at Pocono, he's got a win, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 6 top 15s. I mean, his average finish is 10th in that time span, 13.3. Pretty consistent is really like, he's got that Hendrick power there. Buescher, he's got a win, I believe, like from that rain and lightning a little while back. But in the last 9, he's got 1 top 10 and 2 top 15s. Average finish is 22.0. Big discrepancy there. All right. And no matter what you're looking at, all those metrics that I just laid out there, it's the same story. The last 3 races, Bowman has top 5 and 2 top 10s. Chris Buescher has 2 top 20s. It's just like they're on different wavelengths here. In the last 4 comp tracks that I mentioned, it's 4-0 head-to-head for Alex Bowman, and it's not even close. All right. I mean, average driver rating for Chris Buescher in that time span is 64.6. Who the hell could bet on anyone with a driver rating that low? But the biggest determining factor for me here, and I talk about it often, whether it's this show, my show, or the truck show that we do, Derek, and it's Win the Race. Ryan Stevens' website, his pre-race rankings, when you see a huge discrepancy in a head-to-head matchup, you've got to jump on it. And this is a 10-spot discrepancy from his rankings. That's the largest I've seen in the Cup Series. And to see that it's only minus 135, I'm happy about that. So I like Bowman over Buescher this week at Pocono, and we'll see what goes down.
Okay, so Bowman's definitely a name that I've been hearing about through the community a good bit. When you look at some of the numbers from them, or from his number right now, and maybe what he's done historically. Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you. What do you think about what Phil said, but really, what are you on from a head-to-head standpoint?
Yeah, I like what Phil's talking about with comp tracks, looking at Pocono last year heavily, looking at Auto Club, a little bit of Michigan, little bit, not a lot, a little bit of Michigan, and then also what have you done for me lately? This featured matchup that I'm going with is Danny Suarez minus 120 versus Tyrone Gibbs. And I prefaced it a little bit. I'm going with one team this week, one manufacturer, and it's Trackhouse. Okay, 3 of my 4 plays tonight. Holy shit. I mean, that's the coolest shit ever. Here we go. I got the first soundbite of the NASCAR betting preview show. I like Trackhouse this week. Okay, both of them. Ross and Daniel Suarez were fast last year in Pocono. We saw them both run extremely well at Auto Club earlier this year. And Daniel Suarez specifically last year at Pocono, 7th best total speed ranking, finished 5th, had 10 fastest laps, which doesn't sound like a lot, but at Pocono, it's a decent bunch. At Auto Club, third best total speed ranking, finished fourth, 2 top fives, had 9 fastest laps. Very similar. Okay, so I think that same thing continues this weekend at Pocono. Ty Gibbs, on the other hand, has a whopping 1 fast lap in either of the races, a best finish of 16th, a best total speed ranking of 20th at either of the tracks. Average running position at Pocono last year, 25.2. Okay, he clearly doesn't have the speed that his teammates have. And NASCAR put out the graphic today of the 3 JGR guys, and Ty Gibbs wasn't on there, and it put the Kyle Busch fans like in a hot mess, or the JGR Ty Gibbs fans, and whatever. Okay, he is not even close. It's like Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and then Austin Cindric. It's like the 3 JGR guys and then Ty Gibbs. That's how it goes. And I expect Trackhouse and Danny Suarez to show up this weekend. So jump on -120 before it's not available.
Interesting. So 2 names right there from a bet. Just from an outright standpoint, you guys are calling out some of these names in head-to-head markets that, are a little bit of a longer shot from an outright perspective. So really interesting to hear the positions that you two are getting on. Rory, I'm going to kick it over to you next. From a head-to-head standpoint, where have you found the most value on the board?
I really like Harvick -129 over Logano. Logano was like not good at all here last year. And if you look at any comp tracks, I just feel like Harvick excels at the comp tracks like California, Michigan, those type places. If you want to have something to kind of look at and gauge, and then look at his track record at Pocono. I mean, running fourth here last year, got caught up in what was going down up front, where Chastain got pushed a little bit up into the marbles, I believe, and got him up into the wall, and Harvick was the unlucky beneficiary of that. So I just feel like the 4 team might be getting ready to win them a race here coming up in this stretch, just like they did last year. I mean, I feel like it's a very good possibility. They're going to have the car trimmed out. If they can get them out front in clean air, that's what's going to be the ticket. So give me Harvick on this all day long. Logano's, he's due for a little bad streak. They kind of go up and down over there. So
yeah.
Nah, I'm just kidding. I feel like Kevin Harvick at these type of tracks has been the fastest forward more times than not, besides maybe Blaney randomly, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does well there. That I like this.
You just had to work in the word "do" since Chris is watching, obviously, on YouTube. You just had to work that in a little bit just to get him cringing a little bit there. So, Austin, I'm going to kick it over to you, let you close out the head-to-head market. But first, I got to ask, how did you hit a button that made something clap? That was pretty impressive, because it was right after what Mark said he was going in on. So thanks for bringing that to the party tonight.
Yeah, so I have similar thoughts to Mark, and I was just trying to give him a clapping emoji, but apparently there's a soundboard.
Perfect. This is good to know. This is good to know. This helps me going forward. So what about from a head-to-head standpoint? What have you found that you like, and why should the people obviously go to your site and check it out?
Yeah, so similar thoughts to Mark. I'm looking at Auto Club, Michigan as contracts, with a much heavier emphasis on the 2022 Pocono race. And when you look at Daniel Suarez, he's finished 5th or better at all of these tracks except for Michigan, where he blew a tire with 4 to go at Michigan, and he led 33 laps in that race, had somewhat of a shot to win that race. But the only matchup I found with him was Daniel Suarez over Alex Bowman, -110. And after Mark talked about Ty Gibbs, I actually like Suarez over Ty Gibbs a little bit more. But like I said, this just seems like a good track for Suarez, Chastain, all of Trackhouse, and that's the matchup I'm looking at.
Okay, so you found an interesting thing there where you were still talking about Suarez over Bowman, but kind of liking the Suarez versus Ty Gibbs maybe a little bit better. And we've heard some of the guys already talking about Bowman and Suarez, and then obviously Rory is on Harvick over Logano. So that'll conclude then the head-to-head market, and let's quickly move into the finishing position prop. Curious to hear what the guys have found in this specific market. And Mark, I'm actually going to start with you here tonight regarding this market. Where are we at this week, my man?
Oh boy, we're going back to the Hendrick Motorsports top 10 because they're just dangling it over our head. Okay. And this week, this line that I'm about to talk about, we have never seen this line before, probably his rookie year. And we may not see this line ever again. Okay. This is Chase Elliott, top 10, minus 140. And Phil just talked about how he's on a minus 135 play. That is, he doesn't think should even be a play. It shouldn't even be minus 135. I feel that about Chase Elliott. And I know, okay, he came back from injury. He hasn't been the same. The 9 car hasn't been elite like we've seen him with the 5 car in years past. I get it. But let's start by talking about how Chase Elliott won this race last year. Can we talk about that? Is that something that I know everyone's talking about how they crossed the finish line. I get it. I'm with it. I'm on it. I agree with that. However, he won the fucking race. So listen, Chase Elliott won the race. 6th best total speed ranking. Finished 3rd. Just kidding. Finished 1st. Average running position at 10.3. And 80% of the laps inside of the top 10 at Pocono last year. Auto Club, more of the same. 8th best speed ranking, finished 2nd, average running position 10.9. And that was him starting at the back. So very similar. He's like a top 5 car at these similar tracks. Okay. Is NASCAR rigged? Maybe. Is he going to win one of these races over the next month, 6 weeks? Yes, he's going to make the playoffs. 2nd at California, 7th at Kansas, 3rd at Darlington, 4th at Nashville. Those are all top 10s that would all cash for us at Pocono this week. And I've come on this show and I've gone on my own podcast and dog walked Chase Elliott. I have dog walked when Corey LaJoie jumped into his car and it was a 25th place car. I dog walked him. Okay. I dog walked the whole team. But a top 10 is not too much to ask from our boy Chase Elliott. It's really not. He's got 5 on the year, 6 on the year, 5 on the year on ovals. Okay. And I think Chevy bounces back from a subpar week at New Hampshire last week, come back to some horsepower, some Chevy horsepower. The Chevy's going to be running up front. Whoever thinks Ford's going to be running up front, dog water. Okay. I know I said the same thing at Charlotte and I look like a freaking clown. Okay. But go ahead. Listen, go bet Joey Logano. Go bet Ryan Blaney. Go bet. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Take them. I'm on Chevy.
Okay, so you're on Chevy heavy this weekend. Obviously, it shows already. And last week you talked about Byron, top 10. And now you're saying about, hey, Elliott's a good play here, minus 135. So, Rory, I'm going to kick it over to you, your co-host here. He was talking about Chevy heavy a little bit. Where are you at this week?
I'm glad to see that he's realizing Chevys are faster. You know, he owns a Ford, so
damn right, baby. Damn right.
This is good stuff over here. When I get to talk to him for a couple of hours tonight about Chevys, it's gonna be a beautiful thing. It's gonna be the one that I always keep in my archives. I have to go back and pull it out the old heater every once in a while and let him have some of it. But I'm rolling with a little Ross Chastain top 5 plus 200. I liked what I seen from Chastain last year. I mean, this thing goes green, Chastain probably wins the race. And I mean, Trackhouse was strong here. I mean, Suarez was running up there all day long. He's typically been pretty good here as well in the past. But it's going to be, I feel like, a Trackhouse, JGR, Hendrick, one of those. It's a big boy, event. I mean, you got to have some horsepower and you got to have it handling too. I mean, it's all the braking and the flat corners. The road course guys, a lot of the times, some of them tend to do well here. I feel like that's how it kind of correlates as far as the turns. So I feel like Chastain is kind of a up and down type. They come out of nowhere. And if you kind of look at what they did last year, they typically are running well where he ran well at last year for the most part. So I like this play at plus 200.
You guys are so far here tonight. You guys are bringing up names that I'm very curious about. Chastain being another one. And you'll hear Chastain's name come up when Chris and I do the State Green podcast here in a little bit. But Chastain, he's finished 22nd or worse 6 of the last 8 races. I've been curious here lately. How do we get invested with him? So you kind of outlined a little opportunity there for a top 5 plus 200. Austin, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. What have you been able to find from a finishing position opportunity for us this week?
I'm going to continue the Daniel Suarez love. Like I mentioned earlier, he's a 5th or better finish at all of these comp tracks, if you can call them comp tracks.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez top 10 plus 100 on Bovada. I'm just going to keep rolling on that Daniel Suarez love.
Okay, so a little Trackhouse love, a little Suarez love happening here tonight on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. And Phil, I'm going to let you close out this specific topic here tonight. So what did you find for us from a finishing position prop?
Yeah, well, I want to just call out, like, our go-to, Barstool, like, just letting us down this week so far. No top 10s available on Barstool. We got to get in there here. But, yeah, I mean, I was also on the Suarez. You can actually get Suarez plus 140 for a top 10 on Caesars and other books with their API, which is nice. But since Austin gave out Suarez, I'll switch it up on the fly here. And on my podcast, I talked about Kevin Harvick. I know we talked about Harvick in a head-to-head a little bit ago, but actually saw that on Bet365, he's down to minus 135 for a top 10. And when I was recording, it was minus 160 on Caesar. So I was hoping for better, kind of fished my wish there. And, looking at his last 9 races, his average finish is 8.7. That's first in NASCAR. 1 win, 5 top 5s. He's 7 for 9 for top 10s. And the thing I like about Harvick is at this racetrack, if you look at his average starting position and average finish in that time frame of 9 races, and you figure out the difference, it's a difference of a plus 4.1. So he's gaining positions throughout the race in that time span, and there's no one person better than him in that time span, and it's William Byron. So he's good at being able to kind of overcome some rough qualifying positions. Rory called out his troubles last year. He actually really didn't start well. He kind of got lucky to be up in that spot and then ends up getting wrecked. So finishes kind of where he started. The thing about Harvick that I think is a interesting little stat that I'll leave you with here is this is his 44th career start at Pocono. He's got a 51% hit rate for a top 10, and 3 times in the Pocono history in his career has he had a finish of 25 or worse, and he's backed up those finishes at Pocono the next time there with a top 10. So we'll see the 4th time if he can do that. I like patterns like that. I like stats like that. Just a little fun tidbit to throw in. So Harvick, I think, is a solid play this week.
So 4 is the magic or the key number there. Like you said, this is the 4th time that this could happen. Can we get into the top 10? I was on Harvick last year. So when that incident happened with Hamlin and Chastain, devastated. Still think about that. So you guys all outlined some really good plays there, and I'll make sure to put these in the messaging tab. If you're listening on Twitter Spaces, if you're watching on YouTube, you see in the ticker down below all the plays that the guys are on thus far to kind of keep you connected in that way. And if you don't mind, everybody that's listening on Twitter Spaces, give a like and a retweet. Get your followers, your fans involved with what we're doing here tonight. We're about halfway through. We got the rest of the show here to go, but make sure that we're getting as many people in here that can listen to the insights shared by many of the guys here tonight. So please do that if you don't mind, and I'll make sure to get the plays over that way. I want to kick it over to you, Austin, and I want to really talk about the outright market specifically. What have you found from a betting advantage in the outright market as of right now?
All right, so I'm going to go away from Daniel Suarez and go to a more realistic pick here. Kyle Busch, the last 7 races at Pocono, he's finished 5th or better. And then the other 2 finishes were a 9th place and then a DNF. But other than that, 5 out of 7 finishing in the top 5. I'm going to go with him at plus 650. He was in a JGR car all those years, obviously. But if you look at Tyler Reddick last year in the A car, he finished 2nd. I think Kyle Busch is going to have a whole lot of speed here. You look at Kyle Busch Auto Club this year, the closest comp track, I guess you could call it. He dominated that race. So I'm going to go with Kyle Busch plus 650 on Barstool.
Okay, so you like Kyle Busch here. Kyle Busch is a name, obviously, that does well year in and year out here at Pocono. So I'm going to kick it over to Phil. Curious to hear from you, man. From an outright perspective, what have you been able to find?
Yeah, so the pick that I gave out there to Seth to start the night for the graphic is somebody we've talked about a little bit. So we're going to need old Chris Worm here to come in and stop us from the group thing situation here. But Ross Chastain, 12-1. I mean, I like what Austin said about Kyle Busch, and I'm in on Chastain because of the number here. And thinking about it, I mean, we've talked about how Pocono's a unique racetrack, and you really want to focus on Pocono, but his stats at Pocono are garbage for obvious reasons. Trackhouse has really started to emerge starting last year. So we really have to dig a little bit deeper. And looking at the 4 comp tracks that I mentioned since the start of 2022 season, 2022 didn't really go that well for Ross as far as finishing the race. His average finish was dog shit. The thing is, his driver rating was 3rd in that time span. So he's just not able to get the finishes. He was leading this race a year ago with 18 laps to go, and you guys talked about how they got into it. So they have the horsepower. He's got the talent. And if you want to talk about like kind of a correlation, Auto Club to start the season, where in 2022 he didn't get the finish he wanted. Auto Club, he had a top 5 finish, I believe. So starting to correct those wrongs, and we'll see if that is the case this year at Pocono as well. But it's really the odds. I mean, 12-1. When we see Ross at 12-1, he's actually performed pretty well in that race. It's like he's like watching the books and like trying to prove them wrong. It's really weird. So I think that's pretty decent number for him. And I'm going to ride with some of these other guys in their love for Chastain this week.
Okay, so you guys are definitely heavily invested from Trackhouse standpoint. Trackhouse just a few minutes ago made the announcement that SVG coming back to race in the Indy Road course in a few weeks. So a lot of love for Trackhouse here, it seems like, on the social media airwaves, especially on this show here tonight. So, Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you. We're curious to hear from an outright perspective, what have you found as a betting opportunity for the public?
All right, here we go. Listen, by the way, this is not groupthink, because Phil sent his plays in today. I did my plays last night. I didn't send them in until after Phil did, and no one has had contact with Austin NASCAR money. So not groupthink. All 3 of us and Rory with the Chastain top 5. This has all been our own fucking minds doing something. So we're either going to look really smart or really stupid, but there's no way we're going to look stupid. Okay, we're going to be smart. The Trackhouse boys this week are going to be fast. Let's talk about Ross Chastain. I'm on Ross Chastain outright. Same thing as Phil, 12-1, and his number's been bet down on Barstool. He's 10-1, but I know for a fact that 12-1 is still available out there. Last year at Pocono, Ross 3rd total speed ranking, led 16 laps, average running position of 10.9, and that's with wrecking out with 18 to go, as Phil mentioned, and also starting 21st. I think that's pretty damn good. Comp tracks, like Austin said, if you want to call them comp tracks, at Auto Club earlier this year, he led 91 laps. That's a lot of freaking laps. All right, that's a lot of laps led at Auto Club. Kyle Busch just had the best car when it counted at the end, and Phil talked about it a lot. The 12-1 number is outrageous. I think, in my personal opinion, that Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain have the same potential this weekend, right? New teams, and I know not identical, but they're both with new-ish teams. They've both shown speed on very similar tracks. Kyle Busch has had a lot of good runs at Pocono over the years. Ross Chastain really only last year, but one of them is half the price of the other one, and I just find that extremely fascinating. So and I know that we may want to avoid the groupthink and may want to look at other plays that we've been thinking of, but I completely agree with Phil that 12-1 on Ross Chastain is a bit ridiculous, and he's also won some races at some very large numbers. Some of the tracks we go to, Ross Chastain is 7-1, 8-1, and he's a 15th place car. And we go to other tracks and he's 30-1, 20-1, and he's got the best car. So I love Ross Chastain this week. I'm sorry that you guys have to hear us mumble and jumble about Trackhouse and Ross Chastain this week, but it sounds like a lot of us are on him. So use it if you want.
Okay, well, it looks like, according to what we're seeing on the YouTube side of things, Worm, also messaged everybody out there and said he played a little Ross as well. So, you guys are your minds or sharps over here, right? So, and Rye said if Worm likes him, I'm going to be putting a little bit of Ross on my card as well. So, more than likely, anybody that's listening to the show, Ross's number is probably just going to about to get moved when people are going to be going in on it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm curious, to kind of hear from Austin when it comes to an outright market. What have you been able to find? And by Austin, I meant Rorypicks.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go with his teammate at some pretty hellacious numbers. Track record here, even in Gibbs equipment back quite a few years ago, gets around this place well. Plus 3,000, I don't think will be there come after practice and qualifying. I mean, I feel like he could qualify top 10 for sure. And if he shows a lot of speed in practice, you're no longer going to be getting, 30. You might be able to get 20 still, maybe, because he hasn't won a lot of races. But you'll definitely beat this number, in my opinion, unless something just happens fluke-wise.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense there, Rory. It's an interesting thing, as we keep talking about some of these guys. I don't know if either one of you guys have anybody else that you want to kind of talk about from an outright perspective. If not, we'll move into the next topic. But this is a good conversations here that we're having regarding this market in particular. So let's do this. Let's move into the final segment here tonight because I'm curious what you guys have to say. This is the money segment presented by in partnership with NASCARmoney.com. So this is the money segment here. What we're going to be talking about. Phil, I'm going to let you kick off the conversation from a best bet standpoint. Curious to hear from you. What have you been able to find? Last week, you gave out a little bit of an SRX conversation, and Denny Hamlin went on to win at 4-1. Are we going back to SRX?
We sure are, Derek. We hit Denny last week 4-1, and that felt good. They offered head-to-heads. Now, I got to preface this by saying, via Twitter last week, we saw some states don't offer the same stuff. Like, even if you have Caesars. Caesars was the one, as well as Bovada, that seemed to be humming with the SRX bets. And Caesars dropped SRX on Monday this week. So they're all in. But so I apologize if this is just frustrating because you would like to bet SRX and can't. But I'm going back to that shop and a little Thursday Night Thunder. I'm going with a head-to-head matchup. And this is Marco Andretti over Bobby Labonte. So Marco is our current champion in SRX. And last week, they're going back to the same racetrack. They're going back to Stafford this week because of flooding in Vermont. So that's a key factor here. And, really allows us to kind of jump on some of these bets, to be honest with you. So Marco Andretti looked really good last week. I think he won Heat 2 or he was second, something like that. And he was running up in the top 3 in the main event for a little while, hanging up there with Denny and them. But ends up getting run up the racetrack at one point in the race and hit the wall. And at that point, he became kind of a non-factor in the race. If you had a head-to-head on him, that was, you were hanging in there, finished like 6th or 7th, okay? He's going up against Bobby Labonte, who brought nothing to the table. Just in practice, he was dog shit. In the heats, he didn't bring anything. And in the main event, he was just lackluster. He was just a big name out there. He runs every week, I believe, Bobby Labonte, but he's got nothing for Marco Andretti. If Marco is able to kind of put that same speed back in the car that he had a week ago at Stafford, this shouldn't be anything. So minus 125 on Caesars for Marco Andretti over Bobby Labonte. Maybe in some of these other tracks, Bobby will step up, but not this week.
This is absolutely why I love SRX so much, because in what world did we ever think we would talk about a Bobby Labonte, Marco Andretti, head-to-head in any world? So this is the fun element of that series that we're able to do. And like you mentioned, Caesars, they're putting out a lot of the odds right now. So really cool that they're getting involved, and hopefully more do as well. So Mark, I'm actually going to kick it over to you and get an idea from what are you investing your money in this week?
Listen, we're gonna lay some coin down on the same team we've been laying coin down on. All right, it's Ross Chastain, okay. And I hinted at it a little bit earlier. Sorry, I'm waving my phone around here. I'm fired up about this matchup. This might be the biggest pre-practice qualifying matchup that I have ever laid in my gambling career. And it's Ross Chastain minus 130 versus Joey Logano. And I would actually like genuinely appreciate if someone would come up here and talk about the Fords. Like I would really like, I haven't heard it tonight. I want somebody to come up here and give an argument for the Fords because I don't see it. Joey Logano, yes. Okay. The only thing that I can see is that he ran well at Auto Club. That's the only thing, the only thing that Joey Logano has going for him. And Ross Chastain was better. Okay. And once again, I don't think I need to do a bunch of explaining here on Ross Chastain. If there was a spread on the total speed ranking, it would at Pocono last year, it had to have been like 21.5. It wasn't close. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about Ross a lot, but let's look at Joey Logano. Joey Logano, what have you done for me at Pocono? Total speed ranking, 26. Average running position, 21.2. Fast laps, not a single one at Pocono. Okay. The Fords have lacked horsepower at these high-speed tracks. And once again, Joey Logano, the only thing you can lay your hat on is Auto Club earlier this year, had a top 5 car. Okay. And Ryan Blaney goes out and has the best car at Charlotte. Where did that come from? I still have no idea where that come from. But seriously, if anybody has any backing on Ford this week, please come up here and plead your case because I don't see it.
Phil, you see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
My hand is raised just to bolster my boy's case here. If you need to go any further to the fading Logano camp, how about during the race last Monday, 2 nights ago? Joey's up there in second place. Pit crew announcer gets a microphone in the crew chief's face. And what does he say? He said it's like self-deprecation. He's like, I know we've been slow all year. We haven't found the speed, but we hope Joey can, put it out there. That man's head is in a pretzel when it comes to a high-speed track, high horsepower. They I don't know what they're going to bring to the table. So I like that play here by Mark.
Okay, so Mark, you're saying about maybe somebody step up and have some conversations about Fords. We might get to some here in a second. Rory, I want to hear what you have to say. We're almost at 45 past the hour. We have about 15 minutes or so left. So, Rory, I want to hear what you have to say. What you found? Where you laying a little money on?
You're probably going to enjoy this because I really don't have I don't have a fourth play to make a best bet or anything of that nature right now going in. I mean, I kind of do want to see some practice and qualifying. And I just haven't seen anything out there that jumps out at me as far as I want to hammer this like I did Suarez over Briscoe last year. That was a complete screw up by the books. I hit that as soon as it came out last year. I don't see anything like that right now. So Mark in Mississippi also told me to tell all of y'all thank you. He has to get up 2 a.m. in the morning, head out, has a meeting in the morning. So he just wanted to say appreciated all the love and the shout outs and everything. And his moonshots are Ben Rhodes 40 plus 4,000. And then the Fanger at plus 2,800 for Pocono. Fanger is an auto bet. He bets him every single week. So that is why he is on there, which you never know what's going to happen. Mark tends to pull some shit, from out there sometimes. So that's why we call it the moonshot.
I like it. Well, thanks for, again, calling out Mark in Mississippi. We mentioned it last week, or you did, about him losing his dad. A lot of people kind of rallied around him and showed a lot of support. So that's what the NASCAR betting community is all about, especially this one here at the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. So, Austin, I'm going to let you close out the market here from the this money segment. What are we going to be going with this weekend?
So I have a really unique NASCARmoney.com play of the week, and that is Ross Chastain, top 5.
Very unique. Haven't heard that one yet. Yeah, that's good.
Chastain plus 170, finished top 5. Like we've been talking about all night, he had a super strong car here at Pocono last year. I think Pocono 2022 is the best comp. He had the 3rd most fast laps. Looked like he could have won the race. I think that's the way to go. Plus 170.
Okay, so plus 170 there. You said top 5. There's also maybe a 2-to-1 number out there as well. But this is why we say, right, about shopping for the best price. You know, not every state is able to kind of offer some of those numbers. You might be in a different state, or might not be able to bet from a domestic standpoint. So make sure you're shopping around. The good information there, good insights, were shared. I want to get to Worm here in a second, but one gentleman that's been waiting for quite some time, and I appreciate your patience, is Christopher. So Christopher, thank you for joining the show. What's on your mind here tonight? Just unmute your mic when you got a second.
You bet. I don't know. I was just looking at Blaney and his finishes this year. For this weekend especially, you know, finished 7th at Atlanta, 2nd at Phoenix. Mm-hmm. I'm taking Blaney. He was 2nd at Talladega, 3rd at Dover. I'm taking Blaney with a long shot this weekend to pull this one out. I know, like you said, Ford has lacked, but I don't know why. They always seem to pull one out of the hat, and I think this is the weekend that they do.
Okay, so interesting thing about Blaney, and you mentioned some of the highlights of him. He had a really good stretch. If you look at what he did from Martinsville all the way down through Gateway, you know, past his win, he was consistently in the top 10. But since then, you know, three finishes of 31st or worse, had a 22nd place finish last week, got his first career win here at Pocono a couple years ago. So whenever you go back to the place that you won for the first time, definitely kind of feel a little bit more confident. So you're making a case here for some of the Fords, and I appreciate you tuning in and joining us here tonight. I'll be curious to hear if there's any more Ford conversation. Mark, you were just asking, anybody want to come up and say something about the Fords? But Christopher delivered there. Speaking of, let's go to Chris Worm. Chris, you heard a lot of the conversation tonight. Saw you kind of chiming in at times on YouTube. All the boys, not me, but all the boys are on Chastain thus far. What are some of your thoughts of what you've heard here tonight?
Well, I mean, I tend to agree with the Chastain stuff, but I do want to I'm going to just play devil's advocate here and try to take the Logano side. Is there a non-road course that has more strategy than Pocono?
Is there
a non-road course that has more strategy than Pocono? I don't think there is. I feel like you have to be on the right strategy here. Like there's probably 1 to 3 cars every year at this track where they have a fast enough car to maybe be a strategy or 2 off or not be on the perfect strategy and still win. And whenever it's a strategy race, I think Paul Wolf is the best. So I think that's my only argument kind of against. And the other thing is the comments that Paul Wolf made at Loudon kind of have me thinking that they're just trying different setups in there because they weren't sure. They said they were trying something new at Loudon. They weren't good in practice, but he ended up with a decent finish and a decent race car, and actually looked like he was going to pass Truex at one point. So I think that's the only argument I'd make. Full disclosure, I am pretty heavy Chastain this week as well. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, in a track like this, if an untimely caution could put Chastain in 20th and Logano could inherit the lead. And that's the only reason I'm hesitant to pound a matchup before practice and qualifying. But I tend to agree, but I guess that would be the argument for the other side.
Well, it's interesting to see what Logano and the 22 team have done over the last 5 races. They have a 9.8 average finish. They scored, they scored a 3rd, a 2nd last week, an 8th at Chicago Street, then a 17th and a 19th. So they got a 9.8 average. That's probably the one team. I know there was a couple conversations here tonight about Harvick, but again, for me personally, it goes back to I just don't trust it's SHR right now. Do they have the horsepower? Do they have the speed? Chris, one question I have for you. We talked about a little bit about comp tracks. Curious to hear from your perspective. What have you been looking at from a comp perspective? Or is, like last week we talked about Loudon is its own animal. Is Pocono its own animal?
I think so. I mean, I tend to agree with NASCAR money on this. Just I think that the most important thing you have to look at is just last year. And then I think you just have to look at current form, but also current form relative to last year. I have, a little bit of a something planned to talk about on the Stay Green podcast here about Martin Truex Jr. And, he's been fast at some places, but he was also really fast last year. And I think it's important that we remember that he could have won 3 or 4 races last year and wasn't able to pull it off. So, he struggled here last year. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But from a comp standpoint, I'm really only looking at, I guess, momentum, which isn't a comp track. And then the 2022 race, and then that's about it.
Okay. All right. So momentum.
I'm not using Fontana or Michigan at all. 0.
Okay, but why? Like, does the horsepower not intrigue you at all?
Horsepower does. I guess I would say Michigan, but if Michigan was earlier this season, because if you go to Michigan last year, like, you're going to have a poor read on Byron. Like, Michigan was, I do have that. And like, that's a good point. I like Michigan. If Michigan was earlier this year, then I would use it. But I think Michigan from last year, these cars are so different. I think it's important that driving style at this track clearly matters. There's a reason Denny Hamlin's won here so much, and he learned it on a video game. So I don't think Fontana at all does. That's just me, but I don't think it does at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Michigan was going to be the one track that I said that probably outside of a road course, like you said, kind of brings in the most strategy, but we've seen that more maybe in the past stage breaks. That kind of changes the elements of it as well. So, Jeff, I see that you requested to speak. Curious to hear what you have to say. I know you chimed in a few weeks ago. How are things, and what do you got for us tonight?
Things are going all right. Pocono is my home track. I've been going to these races since like the early 80s. Used to be 500 miles. I'd be all over Truex 500 miles. But even with the 400 miles, I've been messing around with some beginner stage modeling using speed ratings and finishes. I've been sharing it around a little bit as well. And there's one guy every week that wrecks my models, and that's Truex. And until he's beaten, I see Truex plus 160 over on Caesars. I think that's where I'm going.
Okay, so you like the Truex side. You said there plus 160 is the side that you're going to go there, and I appreciate you chiming in and giving us some of your insights. What do you think, guys? From we got about 5 more minutes or so here. So what do you guys think? Anything else that we haven't talked about? Mark, I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I didn't realize that no one was going to talk about Toyota. But our boy,
you guys just talked about Trackhouse and Suarez and Chastain.
Yes,
should rename the pod.
Unapologetically country as hell, or whatever the song goes. Sorry, I'm unapologetic about that. I'm still gonna. I'm not taking it back. But coming from a guy that puts a lot of shit together and that we all look at, FRCS.pro. He wants to know what the Toyotas. Okay, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch finished 1-2. And a lousy piece of tape decided to DQ them. That's why everyone's looking at, where they cross the finish line, etc. I don't have anything that great to say about Toyota. If I'm going to take anybody, it's probably going to be Denny Hamlin, as Worm alluded to. His track record here is impeccable at Pocono. Mm-hmm. He's vocal about that. And I'm curious if anyone, Chris included, Phil, I know, okay, now everyone's raising their hand. I should probably look at my phone and let you guys talk about Toyota.
Well, I'm curious, Christopher, go ahead. I see that you're still up here in the chat, so go ahead. Please chime in. And if anybody else wants to chime in real quick, hit that request button. We'll get you up here before 9 o'clock. Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I know we're high on the Denny and the Martin here, but Christopher Bell, third at Atlanta, 8th at Talladega, 6th at Dover. I don't know. I'm also, and he also finished 2nd in the dual 1 at Daytona and 3rd in the 500. So I was curious, what are you guys' thoughts on a little sprinkle on C. Bell this weekend to put it in victory lane?
Well, I like that you pointed out all his good quality finishes. If you look at what he's done here the last 3 weeks, 18th, 23rd, 29th, C. Bell, you can never count out. I mean, he had a strong car last week, didn't get the finish that he really was deserving. But, Phil, what do you think? Well, you're going to comment maybe a little bit about Toyota, but what do you think about Bell as well?
So, yeah, I'll say what I was going to throw in there, and then I guess I'll tie it up with a little C. Bell. And, you know, that is like, we haven't talked about, at least I didn't bring up a Toyota guy in a way this episode, but that doesn't mean that I'm not on them. I mean, Mark kind of said in the comments, like the way that they were priced, you know, early, we like to try to talk about some of the guys who are like further down the list if we can make a case for them. I will say that MGM kind of shocked me, like where we're seeing 5-1 for Denny, 550 on most books. Like MGM has him at 6-1. So if you are a Denny fan, he's out there. Same with Truex. You know, they're giving better numbers for whatever reason this week for those guys. Kyle is at 7-1 on that book. So you know, Toyota definitely there are streaks at Pocono that we've seen, and Hendrick had it for a while. And right now it's been Toyota with a little sprinkle, in there now and then. So I don't hate Toyota in any way. It's just about finding the right way to play them. And it just kind of was a coincidence this episode that we all didn't really get into him. Now, as far as C-Bell is concerned, I mean, you know, he's 5 races. When I'm looking at the last 9 races at Pocono, he's only got 5 there, and 2 top 5s. One of them was last year. So that's something to be encouraged by. The other finishes he had really recently at Pocono, not necessarily too great. But if we're focusing on 2022 as something to look for, I mean, yeah, Christopher Bell, I mean, he was 5th in total speed ranking, 5th late in a run. So he's maybe, Christopher might be right there on somebody kind of down the list. I don't know what his odds are off the top of my head, but could be worth a sprinkle.
Yeah. One other thing, Phil, while I keep you here real quick, Matt Winter's out there chiming in, and there were about 40 messages I missed. So I'm trying to get to so many as I see them. And he mentioned about anybody betting trucks. Well, Phil, you and I do a Truck Series betting podcast, so we'll be doing that here tonight. But can you give the people a little bit of a teaser, maybe of something that you're on or somebody that we're going to be highlighting?
Sure. I'm excited for Pocono Trucks. Obviously, there's a big elephant in the room with Kyle Busch, and he's weighing down the odds quite a bit. So we'll talk about that on the podcast. So please give us a look there. But why don't we stick with C-Bell? He's in the race. He's driving the 61 truck, and he's head-to-head against my guy, Zane Smith. And I'm actually going to be talking about how I like C-Bell better against Zane. Zane just hasn't gotten it done at Pocono. I see Mark giving me thumbs down, but come see me. I mean, the stats aren't there for my boy, and I'd be the first one to be riding that, but it's just not there. So C-Bell, that 61 truck, the second or whatever truck for Hatari, we'll see what he can do. And he's been very good in his Truck Series career at Pocono. It's been a while, but it's going to be like riding a bike.
Yeah, well, before we get out of here, I see one more thing that was mentioned in the chat, and it's from Skip, and he says, finally, we don't have any weather issues this weekend. So we're going to have a beautiful weekend of racing, maybe minus Friday, but Saturday and Sunday look phenomenal. So we're going to have Trucks Xfinity on Saturday, couple on Sunday, so it should be a lot of fun. Let's do this, jam-packed audience, and I got to say thank you again, guys, for everybody that tuned in on the Twitter Spaces, everybody that came out, whether you were watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, we kind of had the whole thing covered here tonight, and a lot of you showed out. So thank you again for your support. But Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you real quick. Why don't you tell the people where to best support you and find you?
Yes, sir. Lane Coin Podcast. We've got our internet issues figured out. We got our buddy Steve Carnes coming on tonight. That pod will drop at probably about midnight Eastern. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be, us 3 for 30 minutes, and then Roars and I will shoot the shit for another hour and talk Pocono, Trucks, Xfinity Cup. And, go listen to the Through the Gears podcast. My schedule does not allow me to record this week, but You have the world's best substitute in Derek Yoder. He's the best substitute host in the world. Okay. He's done it on multiple times. He's going to be great this week. So thank you guys. And I know I've talked about it for 2 months now, but we do have t-shirts coming out. So go buy one.
And they are fire t-shirts. So I can't wait. Thank you for the plug there about being a substitute. Rory, I'm going to kick it over to you. How can everybody best support you? You got that Instagram up and running? TikTok?
Oh, no, not really.
Okay. That's coming.
It's hit or miss, random stuff. You know how random I am. I mean, we get to talking about all kinds of things on Land Coin. I mean, you have to come up with something, Me and Mark and I don't talk. I mean, we talk text here and there, but he's busy, I'm busy. So it's like our power hour where we just like catch up on everything. You never know where it might go. And, I need to do a little more. I just, I don't know. Maybe I need to drink more. And then, that way I'll be a little bit more motivated for the silly shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you're good. People come for you, man. They come over here to watch you in action. So where can everybody best support you? Twitter?
Yeah, everyone can best support me over here at Twitter and by listening to Land Coin and by listening to this show that you're listening to right here every week. I mean, I'm on those two automatically every week, and then you never know where the hell I might end up. I mean, I'm going to be on with Rye Cape here again in a few weeks. I'm actually going to be at the beach, so that might be a little backdrop for a good little live Sunday morning show. So
that would be.
Who the hell knows what'll happen on that one? I mean, we might be good and right for that show. I mean,
well then
we're not going to be drinking shotguns like Phil. Definitely not.
True. So Phil, a little shot there to you. I'm going to let you go next. How can everybody best support you, man?
Well, they cannot make fun of me for not being able to shotgun. I can drink till 6 a.m., but I can't drink it in 2 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, Full Tank with Phil is the name of the podcast, and I just dropped an episode today, so give it a listen. And about to hop on, or lick, whatever. About to hop on with you in a little bit here, Derek, a little break, and then hopping on recording trucks. Excited about that as well. I will be on vacation next week, so I'm not going to be with you guys next Wednesday. So I hope everyone has a great week next week. And early good luck to Richmond. And I appreciate everybody for jumping on and Austin for jumping on. Congratulations for your new website. I'm really excited to be able to get in there and mess with that.
Yeah, so the vacay parlay is coming your way. If you listen to the Full Tank with Phil podcast, you know what that means. So make sure you check that, what he's doing and what Mark and Rory are doing with the Land Coin Pod and Through the Gears. Austin, I'm going to throw it to you, man. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Great insights and congratulations again, like Phil said, with the website. How can everybody best support you and what you got going on?
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. Best place to support me is right here on Twitter, always posting plays and picks. And then check out the NASCARmoney.com website. I'll be working on it, till the end of the season. I'll keep adding more stuff. Just trying to make it the best all-around NASCAR betting website. And, again, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. Looking forward to chatting with you again here soon. So for everybody that's still listening on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter Spaces, best way to support me is at Derek Yoder _ on Twitter. Get interactive with the NASCAR Betting Preview Show Twitter handle as well, at NASCAR BPS. And then, the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast, Phil just said it, we got an episode dropping here tonight with the trucks. Got Xfinity. Mike Bachman, who's in the audience tonight, joined a vacation down in Florida. He's going to be dropping an Xfinity pod. We got a pre or post practice qualifying. We got a little bit of everything. Just a betting recap posted here early this morning, late last night. So got a little bit of everything. Best way to support me again at Derek Yoder _. But make sure that when you're on the In Between Media YouTube, make sure you're like and subscribe and support what they got going on. Fantasy football is big for them, and they got a lot coming up with obviously the football season just around the corner. So thank you again for tuning in live on YouTube, on Twitter Spaces. We'll catch you next week for Richmond, and thank you again for tuning in.